We are in Chapter 9, Part 3 of The Manipulated Mind by Denise Wynn. And picking up where we left off, he may also play on the suspect's needs in order to establish a relationship, for example, by flattering an insecure person or playing up in himself characteristics which he believes the suspect admires. The interrogator also learns to manipulate words, charging them with the required emotion or using words like mother, which can elicit certain emotions. All weak points are carefully exploited. Unfortunately, all such tactics designed to enable an interrogator to get to the truth of a matter can equally well operate to obscure it. In England, it is now illegal for the police to interrogate a mentally handicapped person without an independent witness present. While that is a concession to the fact that a person of subnormal intelligence can be manipulated, even unintentionally, into confessing what is not the case, it almost by very omission implies that a person of normal intelligence could not be forced into a similar trap. Psychotherapy. The tools of traditional psychiatry, drug regimens, and physical treatments, such as electric shock therapy, are eschewed by very many modern practitioners of the art of emotional healing. Drugs, they say, are simply palliatives, not cures, for mental illnesses, designed to get people functioning again, but not designed to elicit the emotional problems which caused the breakdown in the first place. Psychotherapy, on the other hand, works to free a patient to face and resolve his real underlying problems, to experience a crisis and come through it instead of deadening the agony with drugs. Psychotherapy, then, is the treatment of choice for the liberal-minded doctor. In a free, uncritical environment, with his doctor's support, the patient can truly come to terms with himself. Or can he? Many researchers have shown that psychotherapy is in fact a coercive process. The most acceptable form of coercion, perhaps, but no less coercive for it. In 1955, Rosenthal published a study called Changes in Some Moral Values Following Psychotherapy in a psychological journal. He was able to show that patients who were rated as having improved by their therapists had during therapy changed their values in areas such as sex, aggression, and authority in the direction of those held by their therapists on such matters. Perry London comments on the occurrence in behavior control. There is some evidence in research reports that patients tend to identify with their therapists, gradually developing similar personal values. It is no wonder that they should, for no matter how tentatively he approaches the patient, nor how pure his motives not to control or dominate, the insight therapist cannot help but address what he himself considers the most salient material presented to him. Eventually, the patient's ideas of salience must largely correspond to his, or the interaction cannot continue. What is more, the inherent balance in the relationship, where one person is always helping and the other receiving help, makes the patient look up to the therapist as a potential authority, model, or inspiration, no matter how little he knows of the therapist's outside life. Almost inevitably, he knows plenty about the therapist's attitudes towards the things that count most in his own life, and it is those attitudes that he is most likely to absorb. One explanation for this effect has already been given in Chapter 4. The therapist unconsciously conditions the patient's response by nodding approval to certain things he says, and ignoring or expressing mild disapproval of others. In this way, he guides the patient towards the areas he himself thinks valuable to talk about and to concentrate on words or ideas which have importance for him. It is an old joke, and a true one, that the patients of Jungian therapists dream Jungian dreams, while the patients of Freudian therapists faithfully produce Freudian ones. Sargent sees the anxiety which a patient brings with him to psychotherapy and has exacerbated during the therapy as a part of the self-discovery process as a vital element which, by building up to a level of intolerable stress, creates suggestibility in the patient. Sargent sees the anxiety which a patient brings with him to the psychotherapy and has exacerbated during the therapy as part of the self-discovery process as a vital element which, by building up to the level of intolerable stress, creates suggestibility in the patient. Did I just read that? As he describes psychoanalysis, a patient may have to lie on a couch, perhaps daily for months, free associating, saying whatever comes into his head. The therapist may then pick up on particular words and say, "What does latter mean to you? What significance does the word nurse have for you?" If the words are found to hold some sexual significance, the patient is then invited to go over his sexual past and relive all and any incidents which aroused equivalent anxiety, anger, guilt, fear, etc. As some of the incidents may have happened in childhood and had been repressed till now, because they were so anxiety-inducing, the patient suffers ever-mounting stress and discomfort. The effort of reliving and re-experiencing is also exhausting. As the tension increases, so does the patient's dependence on his therapist, and his initial resistance to the latter's interpretations of his actions is worn down. The patient comes to accept and act upon theories about his personal condition, which may well be at variance with what he had always believed. He achieves insight. Stories about subtle shaping of behavior during therapy abound. One woman was asked by her analyst whether she found herself looking between men's legs when she traveled on the London Tube. The woman said no. On her way home, she found herself staring between the legs of men sitting opposite her on the train, and carried on doing so whenever she got on a train thereafter. The therapist would probably have said that she had always wanted to sneak a peek until now the desire had been repressed. Others might say he had suggested an idea which took hold and then became habit. And I'll stop it right there, and we will pick up with part 4 of chapter 9 in the Manipulated Mind in the next video, and I will see you there.